connected with all of the high country. We are AM 1450 and FM 96.5 WATA.
This is All About Home Construction. And here's your hosts, Terry Cannell-Beck and Randy Blake.
That's right. A lovely Saturday morning, all about home construction. Thanks for listening to us. We gotta love a good Saturday. A little rainy Saturday. Randy Blake in the studio. Good morning, sir. How's it going, Randy?
Morning.
Happy Saturday, buddy.
Hey, maybe we'll get a little rain and slow down
a little rain.
The drought.
I think we're gonna get a bunch of rain. Well, I don't know about like measurement wise, but I think wet wise, we're gonna get a bunch of rain. It's gonna be wet all day.
I don't think they know because I've seen anywhere from an inch to 2 inches.
See, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, it's good. Maybe
better than snow.
I think so. I mean, I kind of. This is my favorite time of year. This in the fall, when it's like cool enough to put on a jacket in the morning, but in the afternoon the sun's shining. You don't have to worry about it. Feels
good as long as we don't go into a drought this summer.
That's the worry. But anyway, can't handle it. I mean, can't help it either way. Just got to deal with it. Clean out those trees.
Mother Nature.
That's it. But all about home construction. Thanks for listening. Randy's got a fish fry tonight. Good old fish at the VFW.
Yeah, having flounder, nice. French fries, slaw, and hush puppies.
Nice.
I call it a light fish fry.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we're going to use is a 7-ounce flounder fillet breaded instead of a full-blown meal for $12. Can't
go wrong there.
Well, it'll fill you up. Time to get your fries and slaw and everything on there, you're looking at about a 14, 16-ounce plate.
Sweet.
And
we had a debate about slaw last night. How do you like your slaw? Sweeter? Vinegar?
I like sweet. I'm not big on vinegar.
Vinegar, buddy.
Nah, me and vinegar don't get along. That comes all the way back from grade school because you had to eat your greens before you could get another hamburger or hot dog.
There's nothing wrong with greens. I love greens.
The no way I could eat greens was
lots of vinegar.
A cup of vinegar and a spoonful of greens. That's the reason you have cattle to graze.
To eat the greens for you. I love good greens and vinegar. Vinegar's the best part, but it's all right. I mean, I like coleslaw both ways, but yeah, we did. I had this conversation last night. So.
Well, actually, vinegar is very good for you. Apple cider vinegar is.
It is. I've been threatening to make my own and haven't done it yet. So
never made it.
It's not hard, apparently.
I think Taz has been making it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And but I know that, like when I was a kid, we lived up in Ohio, and the Italians, a lot of wine would go to vinegar.
Yep.
And it really made a roast excellent.
Yeah. Good to know. So, anyway, there you go. So go on over 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock tonight at the VFW.
4 to 7.
Sorry, I said wrong times. 4 to 7, and get on over there and get it, and it'll be good. It'll be good. So.
Well, now that we're allowed to go back to animal fats and stuff, and on Sundays I've been cooking prime rib sandwiches.
Nice.
And fries for $8.
Sweet. There you go.
And but I went total beef tallow on my French fries, and it's just like stepping back into in the 60s, 70s, and 80s on the flavor of the fries and stuff.
Adds to it, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Now, are you mixing it with anything else, or just straight beef tallow?
No.
I mean, I'm not trying to get trade secrets out.
Oh, that's all right. Because I've always, ever since we had all that mess back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Remember when McDonald's was saturated fats was killing everybody,
right?
And they went to vegetable oils, and I never could find a vegetable oil made me happy, so I went to peanut oil.
Right.
At least peanut oil will put the flavor back in it, but you also have to put the salt to your flour to get the flavor out of what you're going to eat.
Yeah.
And you don't have to put near as much salt in it when you're using animal fats.
There you go. Well,
now they're saying now, because of the manufacturing process of soybean, vegetable oils are a lot healthier now than animal fats, or not as healthy as animal fats.
Right. I know there's a big push to go back to those animal fats.
Well, believe it or not, since they've released it, 2 years ago is when I got to reading about it, like beef tallow has gone down $30 for a box, 50-pound box.
Okay.
peanut oil wasn't too bad.
Right.
A couple years ago, you could get 35 pound for $35. Mm-hmm. Well, peanut oil is now $65 for 35 pounds.
Up, right? Twice the cost.
And beef fat has come down from $102 down to $75 for a 50 pound.
Okay.
So
makes more sense. Mm-hmm. And if it tastes better.
And after 3 weeks of cooking fries in that one little fryer I got, the oil is still just as clean as it was when I put it in there.
That's good. That's huge. That's where the big savings is.
Well, the boiling point.
Right.
And,
well, good.
But, there's still certain dishes that you have to use certain oils,
I guess. I just put it all in the air fryer these days, buddy.
I just can't handle the air fryer. I'm old school.
All right. Well, hey, if you're looking for something to do during the day before the fish fry, from 1 o'clock till 5 o'clock at the high school, Watauga High School, they're having the Mountain Comic-Con convention contest, and prizes and vendors and all sorts of stuff. So if you are into any kind of, it's not just comic books. That's part of it, right? But if you're into any kind of like sci-fi, Lord of the Rings, stuff like that, I promise you a good time. It's good. It's going to be like 60 vendors, handmade crafts. So,
hey, I'll tell you what,
cool.
that's a big one for the youngest today.
It is, and it's really cool. But even even just general listeners out there, like if you like to go to craft shows, it's worth your time to stop by there because there's all sorts of stuff there.
Well, Congress in North Carolina is working on kids online, trying to get them, especially young ones.
Yep.
And here a couple weeks ago, my Franklin, which he's been on the radio here,
yep.
and he generally helps me in the meals, and he says, "Come over here, Papa, and play with me." And we got to playing because we have the games at the VFW for the youngins. We have worked very hard to make it child friendly.
That's awesome.
And we got done. He said, "We did excellent." I said, "What do you mean?" I said, I didn't do nothing. He said, we come 13 out of 100.
Nice.
And I'm going, we were playing against all these other people. And I don't like that at all.
Well, those when it comes, video games has came such a long way. There's schools and I was talking to some people last week about it. There's competitions now, and so there's places in North Carolina, everywhere, but North Carolina has over like 1,000 students. I think it's like 100 plus schools in the state compete in esports. And so it's just like any other sport, like football, basketball, whatever.
Yes.
Like as far as the competition. But your school like signs up for it, and you can join this league, and kids are playing kids and video games, and it's a contest. It's an actual sporting event basically.
Well, they have it all the way into the college level.
Yep.
And believe it or not, a lot of these kids in the college level actually go into the military. Mm-hmm. Because that's what they want.
It's kind of pre-training them.
And like my nephew, he's excellent at them. Mm-hmm. And that's what he's wanting to do, is go to the Air Force and be a drone pilot.
I was going to say, like, for all those kids out there listening to us, when they say you can't make any money playing video games, well, Mom and Dad's wrong now. There's some kids who are getting money and getting scholarships to go to colleges and stuff because of sports, because of esports, electronic video games.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's cool.
Well, has Evan been on the radio?
I feel like he's had years ago.
Didn't say much.
When Shelby was here, maybe. I don't remember.
But Evan is my grandson.
Yep.
He's 12 years old. He just he has a degree in coding. And he was in a class with adults.
That's awesome.
So now here's a 12-year-old that can't get a job with a degree.
Yeah. That's awesome. Good for him.
And I truly believe if he was still on virtual learning, he'd already graduated high school.
Sure. There's some kids out there that love it. I've watched it personally as far as like kids thriving. It's all about attitudes, right? It's all about wanting to learn.
Correct.
But that's anywhere and everywhere. Like there's all sorts of we all learn different. We all like to learn different ways, and your way is not necessarily the best. It's just the best for you, and
that's right.
That's the way it should be. Well, we like to learn. I mean, we learn. That's what the show's about, right? Like every week, we're trying to talk about new things and different things, and trying to educate our listeners. Which we end up educating ourselves, I think, as much or more than we do the listeners.
Well,
so,
I truly believe that after this flood, we're going to have a lot of changes in North Carolina on the construction codes.
In some ways, I hope so. I don't want to see the cost of building going up. And that's what scares me when it comes to like adding codes and changing codes. But I also like the idea of getting a better house. And so I guess there's that double-edged sword, right?
Well, it is. And, I listen. Every other month there's somebody coming out about affordable housing.
Right.
There is never going to be any affordable housing in the state of North Carolina. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, the only people that can do affordable housing is HUD.
Right.
All right, and HUD is subsidized by the federal government.
So it meets federal instead of state.
Yeah, just like these tiny homes.
Right.
Anybody can build a tiny home, but can you live in it?
Right. Because
you got to build it to the code of North Carolina. HUD does not have to obey that.
Right.
And that's how they get by with building tiny homes, far less than a contractor can.
Sure. I mean, and I'm a fan of these tiny homes. I know we've talked about that in the past. I think it's not to say again. Like, I mean, I've got four kids at home. Like, it's not easy to live in one. I'm not saying we all should, but I will say that, like, we've got people living in FEMA trailers across the state now. To me, a tiny home built right is going to be a lot better than one of those FEMA trailers. At least there's some kind of investment in that. Like, I mean, it's stick built. You can customize it. I mean, there's all sorts of things to do with that, and but I know people, like, we're here in the mountains, right? I know people who have or try to get them so they can come visit. That's a great weekend vacation because it's bigger than a hotel room and it's better. I mean, there's all sorts of things. So, well, let's take our first break and we'll come right back into All About Home Construction right after this. Obviously, by listening to this podcast, you see the value of All About Home Construction. Well, by joining our listener supporter community, you're not just tuning in, you're standing with us as we are able to support and fuel our passions of the construction industry. As a listener supporter, you'll enjoy exclusive perks, including hearing your name, or maybe even your business name, on our show. So please go to our Spotify website. The link will be in the show notes, and join. You can join for as little as $1 one-time fee, $1 a month, $5 a month, whatever you think you can afford. Every single penny helps to keep this show going as we can continue to grow and do lots more things. Thanks a lot. And again, more importantly, thank you for listening to this. That's right, All About Home Construction here on WATA. Thanks for listening to us. Thanks for sharing the podcast as well. We do appreciate that. So, well, all right, we were talking before the break, Randy, about tiny homes. How would you define tiny homes? Like, what constitutes a small house versus a tiny home?
Well, first off, a small house under the real estate has to have a minimum of a 90 square foot bedroom.
Goes by bedrooms then, not total square foot.
Correct. And but a tiny home doesn't have any limitations on the size of the room.
Right. I think in general, what I've found is, like, especially when you're reading online and researching it, tiny homes are typically under the 500, 400 square feet total.
I'm trying to find out what this one is.
I think, I don't know that there's like a definition that they all have to be blah, blah, blah. But in general, you're talking about 400 to 500 square feet for most of what I see to make it that way. But that's where the affordability part comes into it.
Well, have you noticed over the years how everything you buy now is in inches?
Yep.
I'm looking at this tiny home here right now, and it's 232 by 248.
That's a lot of feet.
That's inches.
I know.
And it weighs 5,500 pounds.
That's cool.
Never Seen that.
Well, because it looks more impressive when you put it in inches. It's a larger number, and larger's better. Despite the fact we're talking about tiny homes.
It's tiny, but it's bigger than you think.
Right. Well, that's my thing. Is like a lot of these tiny homes, they are like they can fit on trucks that come down the road, right? And so a lot of them are that 8 to 10 feet wide, up to 20 feet long, kind of situations. And
well, just remember, in North Carolina, you cannot pull your tiny home on the road.
Even if it's wheeled and portable.
Nope, you cannot, because it's wider than the camper.
Okay, got you.
And now Tennessee allow you. Mm-hmm. Most states will allow you, but North Carolina.
Now I've seen a lot of these tiny homes where people have built them on the back of like a gooseneck trailer, so that they can.
Then
pull
you
them
can
around.
Because you're an 8 foot wide. To give you an idea about that tiny house. That tiny house is 380 square feet.
Yep. So we're just under that 400 square feet mark, which again I think tends to be kind of the sweet spot when you're looking at these online, especially to buy. So, but what I like about them though is the affordability. I mean, you can get into a house for. I mean, it's not a large house, but you can get into a house for $10,000 to $20,000, move in ready.
No, not quite.
You don't think so?
No, not in this house that I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Because these are houses that's just the kids.
Right.
Doesn't include your foundation. Doesn't include your meter and stuff like that.
Now, how does that work with foundations though? Because some of these things are considered portable. So does that change the code of the foundation?
Correct. Because these houses now, what I'm looking on is the Amazon website. Okay.
Right.
Because they have the kits, and. So with these kits, you got to put a foundation under it. Mm-hmm. You still got to meet the requirements. If you buy it, you do it. You got to meet the requirements of a foundation.
Right.
Don't necessarily have to be CMU foundation or ICFs. It can be a post foundation as long as the plan says you can use it.
Gotcha. Well, okay. So I'm going to pause on the tiny house for a second. So we have these storage buildings all over the place that are the same size as some of these tiny houses. But if I get those. By code, do I have to put a foundation underneath them? Because I usually just drop them off and level them up and move on.
What will probably happen is the plant inspection department will have to have you engineer the foundation.
Okay. So that's because you're living in it. It's going to make it different than these.
Correct.
These buildings.
I know there's a couple in the county, and I remember we've had Patrick Bevel on before, and we talked about it and I think it's a great idea, these storage houses.
Right.
But then the building inspector come in and said, now you got to bring the R value up.
Mm-hmm. Right. So a lot of these things are built by 2x4. So how do you get the R value on a 2x4? Just in general, on a 2x4 wall, what do you got to do to get the R value up to code?
You have to go to foam.
Right.
You have no choice on that because if foam is 6.2 times 3.5, that has an R value of 21.
When you need 19.
Yeah, you've already exceeded.
Right.
And the code says with 2x4 walls, you can have R15 in the wall, but then you have to put something on the outside of it, which could be R Max or blue board or any type of foam on the outside to bring your up to code.
Right. But on these, if you're building a tiny house, that kind of defeats the cost-wise. If you're building it from yourself, you might as well just go 6 foot or 6-inch walls instead of the 2x4s. Go by 2x6s. But I'm thinking again, like changing one of these buildings over. If I did that, I mean, I'd have to go out with a new siding, and most of these already have wooden siding on it anyway. So it kind of defeats that purpose. So foam would be the way to go to get it up to code.
Correct.
And but foam, I guess, is not. I mean, it's clearly not the cheapest system out there in terms of insulation.
No, it's not. But see, if you use a closed cell foam, then it seals everything up. And that's something I need to check into on the energy code to see if the energy code has come down to meet foam.
Right.
Okay. Because let's take a regular standard house with high density foam. Let's say it's 6.2. you don't have to have a 2x12 rafter, so you're cutting down cost. Okay?
Right.
All right. Well, with bats, you have to have 2x12s to get R38 with bats.
Okay. Right.
But it depends. There you go. Then there's the math in it, because if you're going to go to a foam house, you're going to drop down on your framing, but you got to know the length of your ridge pole. Or not your ridge pole, but your rafters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's a little bit of work you got to do in it, but the point of it is you can actually cut corners. Or I guess I need to start over. The code needs to. The code needs to address the density of the foam, so it don't have to be so thick.
Right. Because
it seals everything out. Let's say if you put this, you got a container,
mm-hmm.
and you put a 2x2 wall in there.
Right.
Okay. Now just a 2x2. Let's set the 2x2 off the construct the steel 1 inch.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now we got 1 inch and 1.5 inches.
Yep.
And you spray it with foam, but the foam goes behind the framing and goes against the steel.
Right.
Now it's sealed everything out, and it's not going to come through.
Because the wood's not up against the metal.
Yeah, it's stopping the thermal break.
Yeah.
And to give you a good idea, what we have in our house that does this every day is look at a freezer
mm-hmm.
or a refrigerator.
Right.
The thickness of it, because it's got a high density foam in it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that would make sense. But again, high density is going to cost you more than the open cell.
Well, I'm not a big fan of open cell. There's a lot of arguments on it.
Yeah.
And but open cell is not structural.
Mm-hmm.
Closed cell is structural.
Right. But yeah, but it kind of depends on the application, because, for instance, if I'm talking about these tiny houses, the structure part isn't going to change if I add foam or if I add foam or don't add foam. I mean, it's already a structure, in other words.
Yeah. The only thing I can't find out, I'm looking at a house right now. Okay, it's a tiny home,
mm-hmm.
and let's see, it is a 20 by 40 home.
Okay. It's
a kit home. All right, it's $9,500 for the kit. Okay. Now this home can be set on piers.
Okay.
It doesn't have to have full size foundation in there. And but it has 2 small bedrooms and 2 small showers, a living room, and a teeny kitchen. I mean, it's
right.
just like a motel room.
Yeah.
And it's a 2-person house. But then what causes it to go up is your options on your windows.
But that's every house, right? Like
correct.
I mean, when you upgrade into stuff like that.
But I think for senior citizens and stuff like that, this is the way to go.
I mean, to me, it's better than like condo townhouse living, because you're getting some of the same square footage, but now you're on your own location. That to me is part of the advantage of them. And they're unique. Like you don't have to, you go into a townhome, then it all, yours looks like your neighbor's. Whereas if you go into this, like you get some of that style preference. You can have, you can have a timber frame look. You could have, you can have a modern look. I mean, there's all sorts of fills and stuff when it comes to that, the architect part. That's what I liked about it. But yeah, I mean, it's so knowing North Carolina code. Can you build one for $30,000 total?
Probably not.
It's going to cost you more than that.
Yeah, because see, most of these materials don't come from the U.S.
Right.
They come from overseas.
Yeah. Well, and that's my thing is like you see, like, to me the advantage in what you see touted all the time is the whole like tiny homes are affordable. And in theory they are, right? Like,
yeah.
Like in theory, if we didn't live in North Carolina, in theory we could build one for $30,000 to live in.
Correct.
But when it comes to practicality, and especially being in North Carolina, because that's where that's where our show is like you can't because of the codes. And
well, you can go right across the line to Tennessee.
Yeah. And
you can build whatever you want to build.
Tiny houses on Amazon are like actual.
Randy's like, look at you playing video.
Yeah. Oh. Well, it's about a tiny house, but you can build whatever you want. Well, here in North Carolina, you're bound by the code.
Right.
Even if you're a homeowner doing your DIY project, if you eventually are going to sell that product, you got to build it to the standards that I have to build
the code, exactly.
And,
exactly. So,
and these tiny homes from Amazon are foldable homes.
That's cool.
And so
Randy can take it with him when he leaves.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll take a break. We'll go right back. The Boone VFW Post 7031 is looking at making improvements to their Veterans Memorial Wall, and you can help. Here's Chuck.
We could do engraved bricks to cover the memorial. It's in honor of the veterans who have served and some that have given their all for our country. And that's the one thing that we feel as the VFW that we can do to honor those who have come before and those who are even present today.
But Chuck, what do we have to do to participate?
You don't have to be a war veteran in order to be a part of this memorial. It's just that you served.
What is the cost?
That fee is only $50, but it's a lifetime investment.
If you would like to help participate by honoring a family member, a friend, or a loved one, you can contact the Boone VFW Post 7031 at 828-264-9570. They are on VFW Drive just off of State Farm Road here in Boone. Thank you for all that have served. That's right, all about home construction here on WATA. Thanks for listening to us. Don't forget Randy's VFW fish dinner tonight. Check that out at 4 o'clock and go over there and get some good fish. If you're in town in Boone, Mountain Con going on from 1 to 5, so you could go over there, buy a bunch of cool craft stuff, and then go over to fish fry.
Can I say something else too?
Please.
On Sundays at 4 o'clock, Tony Poole's playing.
Nice.
And they've been doing it every Sunday. And if you're a musician and you want to come play, you can come play. They're looking for a bass player. They got a drummer now.
Nice.
So, and I just told them, do an open mic, do an open play. People that just want to play, come play.
Just come have fun.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the way it should be. So, check that out. Good.
And but getting back to that tiny home, I just showed him. It was a fold, and you can see the arms where it folds out and everything.
Yep.
But most of these, this one comes with built-in toilet, fan, faucets, and pipes. It's easy to install. Can't even talk today. I get wound up for a dinner. And it's a 20 by 20. And they have sliding, swinging, and folding doors. And the material's steel. It's 20 by 20. And the cost of it is $12,899.
Right.
Now that does not include any heat.
Right.
So you'd have to go with a mini split.
Which seems to be more and more popular and efficient.
And but you have to pay attention to what mini split you buy, because most mini splits are only good down to about 20 degrees.
Yes, I have little experience with mini splits, but what I do know is there's different ones, because I've heard from people who live up north, love them, and then I know of people down in the south that hate them because it gets too cold in the wintertime and their heat bill goes up. So not all mini splits are the same. Some are rated for lower temperatures.
Well, the new ones that have come out here in the last couple of years, and they're bigger.
Right.
They got a double fan on them.
Yep.
They're good to 20 below.
Good.
But you're like I think I was looking the other day at one that had 3 heads on it, 3 units, and it was $6,800.
Right. But mini splits, just like regular heat pumps, are they're rated by the size, how much square feet
Correct.
they're going to heat or cool.
Yes, BTUs.
BTUs.
But
that's
they're a lot more energy efficient than a regular furnace.
Yep. I think they're great from what little I understand about them. So
we built that house, that log cabin down in Morgan in 2 years.
Right. That's
And the guy put 3 mini splits in it. And I'm going, well, I think you oversized your loads on this house. And he said, well, log cabins are generally
drafty. Right.
And I said, this one probably is not going to be drafty like most of them built down here. Because we used about twice as much caulking most of the time.
Right.
And sealing and gluing. And I glue all my joints together on the house. Mm-hmm. And I said that one unit you have in the living room right there will probably heat the whole house.
That's cool. Well, so if you were looking at building a tiny house or living in a tiny house, mini splits would be the way to go, right?
I would, yes.
I mean,
it'd be hard to put a forced air unit in.
Right. But I mean, even electric heat is going to cost you more than a mini split in terms of running it.
Correct.
So that would be the way. And
I think so. You'd have to get the specs on the home,
right,
and do the res check on it.
Yep.
To see what size you would need to size it to.
No, I've seen some of these tiny homes, and they have like these small stoves, like the rocket stoves and wood stoves in it, like the smaller ones. But North Carolina would make you still put in a second heat, what they would consider a primary heat
Correct,
source.
Because your insurance will not allow you.
So is that an insurance thing, or is that a North Carolina code thing?
Both.
Okay.
You know, the insurance is control everything. Yeah. When you have a complaint, you call Raleigh. You call the insurance board.
Right.
That's who dictates what has to be done.
Sure. Well, because that's the cool thing. And I say that because a lot of the tiny homes, not all, but I mean, there's a good chunk of tiny homes being built and moved in that's off grid or semi off grid, right? So that's where I was thinking about the heating source. But yeah, I mean, it's. You would have to have by code, you'd have to have a second one. Well, okay, what about the bathrooms? That's because everyone loves a big bathroom. I mean, that seems to be the thing. And a tiny house, a lot of the bathrooms, you're talking 20, 40 square feet.
Well, you're talking about a camper bathroom.
Basically, right. But I have seen these bathrooms in the tiny homes where the whole area, the whole bathroom basically is a wet bathroom. So you have the sink and the shower and the toilet all in one waterproof room, I guess you'd say. Is that code? I mean, can that meet code? Or
yes, it can. Matter of fact, we built a handicap house back in 2002.
Right.
And we had it designed so that the floor was 1.5 inches lower in the bathroom than the rest of the house.
So it wouldn't overflow.
Correct. And then the guy came in and laid the tile, and he made it all go to the drain. Mm-hmm. And it was wheelchair accessible. So there was no threshold.
That's
because
awesome.
We designed it so the only time it got out of hand is when there's a spray in you, and you could spray out the door.
Right.
I mean, we put a pocket door in it.
Yeah.
But other than that, you could hose down the toilet. You could
see that to me is like, I like this at any house because I could hook up I would have a water hose attachment under my sink, and I'd just hook up a little water hose and clean in my bathroom. It would be so much easier.
Yeah, well, it is, and but it's quite practical. You know, instead of you can actually build your shower without a threshold in it.
Right. Well,
if you plan it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking like even with the threshold, like I get where you're coming from with the wheelchair part, but just tiny homes and in general, like I think it's a great idea to make the whole bathroom waterproof. You could just have a shower head just basically in the middle of the room, and your bathtub. I mean your toilet. You know, and you could put a sink on top of the toilet. They make those combinations that has a sink over the toilet.
Yeah.
And you know, to me, like that's just cool. I mean, it like I said, because most of us anyway don't use the bathroom and take a shower at the same time.
No.
So you know what I'm saying is like you only need one space. Of course, if I had a toilet in my shower, I don't know, maybe I'd be doing both more often.
Well, here's
two birds with one stone.
Here's a tiny house with a bathroom. Okay, now it has a low profile toilet.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I mean, it is as narrow as you can.
You just sit down on it, right?
Yeah. And it has a shower that has it's round and the doors slide.
Okay.
All right. So believe it or not, your vanity is nearly as big as your shower.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the only thing about tiny homes is they're not handicap accessible.
Right.
And I mean, this is a nice prefab tiny home I'm looking at right here online because it's 2 stories with an upper deck on the master bedroom that goes out. There you go. There you know it's from overseas because it's in inches instead of feet.
Right.
But it's $65,000.
Okay. Well, cost, right? It's just like everything else. But wet baths are again, these areas are pretty cool. I mean, it's as long as you ventilate. I'm sure that ventilation becomes a problem, but that's with any bathroom. But I would imagine if everything inside is waterproof, ventilation would be a little bit bigger issue.
Correct, and it's probably got ventilation. It looks like all the lights are LED.
Yeah.
It has a window in that bathroom.
Sure.
And so there you go. You don't need a fart fan.
Right. Well, I'm just thinking
yeah,
moisture.
This comes from China. And I can't read them instructions in Chinese.
The one house Randy can't build.
Well, takes you back to when you was building the model when you was a kid. You didn't read it. You just looked at the pictures,
keep going, I know.
This house is 40 foot long, and it's a foldable home.
That's cool.
I mean, I really think in these situations, especially like the hurricane hitting up here, that there ought to be a little leeway to allow these tiny homes to come in for people.
We saw the ones, down, was it Quarterstone had them at their church parking lot for a while, the ones that the Amish group built.
Yeah.
I don't know where those ended up in terms of who, if they ended all up in Watauga County or what, but I just know they're gone, so they're set up. But yeah, I mean, again, it's when you're looking at like the alternative, right? Living in an RV or a small trailer, FEMA trailer.
Look at all the folks at Asheville
living
in tents. When we were 2 degrees below up here, they were in tents.
I went to Asheville. I went through there last week to Hendersonville, and there was a couple of tents on the side of the road still, and it's crazy.
Well, this house here is totally steel.
Okay, so that I was gonna. It's funny you said that because I was going to ask you. You can do all sorts of just like any other traditional framed house. You can use steel. You can use wood.
Correct.
You can go with a timber frame. I mean, you're open to whatever building technique that you want.
Correct. And the way these houses are looking, you're looking at longevity here, because there's nothing that's wood on this house. It's all fake wood. Here you go.
Yeah. No, I mean it's all these some of them like these recycled, sustainable materials, but again, what I like is just like any other house, right? You get the creativeness. You can get a modern style architect. You can get a rustic style architect. And so that's what I think is pretty cool, because I love timber frame stuff, and to me, you could have, even if it's faux timbers, right?
Yeah.
You can totally decorate, I guess you'd say, style wise with that. So
yep.
Let's take our last break. We'll be right back. Are you ready to level up your home construction game? Obviously, you've subscribed to All About Home Construction. Now we would like to ask you for some support. You can be like Dave, Bill, and Skipper and help support All About Home Construction. The links are in the show notes. That's right, All About Home Construction here in WATA. Talking a little bit about tiny houses. So again, we've talked about the insulation, we talked about the foundations, bathrooms, square footage. What about bedrooms? So some of these have dedicated bedrooms. There's also sort of a branch of tiny homes that have kind of like Murphy beds, like in other words, they got interchangeable spaces, and so a bedroom can morph into like a living space. But let's just stick with the bedroom in general. Like North Carolina codes, don't they require how big a bedroom has to be, at least like the minimum square footage?
They can be quite small. Let's see here. But it gets down to the point, like these tiny homes, that it's a twin bed.
You're not getting a king bed in there, for sure. So yeah, I was thinking though that North Carolina required X amount of feet to have to be considered a bedroom. But
8 by 10.
Okay.
That's about as small as you can go, 90 square feet.
90. Okay, I was thinking it was something like that. So, but again, if you have this living space that transforms, I mean, I've seen some where the beds like are on like a cabling system, and so they rise up into the ceiling. Or of course Murphy beds, we've all seen those on TV, right?
Yep.
Where they pop into the wall.
I found it. Under the North Carolina Residential Building Code, a room can be considered a bedroom if it has at least 100 square feet.
Okay.
All right, and has 50% of it has to have a ceiling height of over 7 feet.
Okay. Yeah, that's not too bad. I mean, it's a 10 by 10 space. Which if you're gonna put a bed in there and leave it, I mean, like you that's gonna be what you need for sure. Well, what about living spaces? I mean, a lot of these somewhat open floor plans, right? Especially when it comes to the living space, and when we're talking about kitchen space, a lot of so you can use some of that same space for both. When it comes to North Carolina, they don't care how big a kitchen is, right? I mean, like as long as you have the.
No, they don't. And most, houses, you have your dining room, mm-hmm. your living room, and your kitchen all in one room.
Right.
All right. Not much. Efficiency living units must have a living room of at least 220 square feet.
So so if you have 220 square feet and now you have 100 square feet for the bedroom, 50 square feet for the bathroom.
Yeah.
You're that's where you get close to that 400 square feet. That makes sense. Yeah.
No basement shall be used for living purposes unless specific conditions are met.
And interesting.
How many people out there got a bedroom in a basement?
I would be one of them if I had a basement. That's my goal.
Well,
as long as you have egress.
Make sure you got a window, because I've been in a lot of houses that has bedrooms with no windows.
I've stayed in some of those too. I know. I know. Okay.
Which everybody's done it.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying. But yeah, okay. So living space can really be, as long as you meet that 200-ish square feet, give or take, 250, you should be good to go. So, yeah, okay. So, again, this is not a house that everyone's gonna want to live in.
Correct.
It's a very minimalist lifestyle in terms of stuff, right? You don't have a lot of room for stuff. But again, I keep thinking of these Airbnb Vrbo things where it's, if I'm going to get away for a week and I'm going to have to go, I know families who go and for instance, like West Virginia, they go up there every couple weekends, right? And they have a little place up there. To me, and people come up here to the mountains, once a month or whatever. To me, that's the best. That's where these things really come into play, because you could set one up, and it's larger and better than living in a hotel every weekend.
Correct.
But it'd be on your place too, I think they're cool. I think it's cool technology too, and because of the size though, we talked about the insulation and stuff, but the cost of building is going to be cheaper for one, the size, but also it's going to be more efficient. A lot of these will have. Think about plumbing, right? If you could design it right, you could essentially have one set of pipework that come up, feed the shower and bathroom, and then on the other side of the wall, feed the sink.
Correct.
For the kitchen.
Well, that's about a standard anyhow.
Well, yeah. I'm just thinking like that part would be easy. Electrical, you're not running it as far away from the box, so that's going to be cheaper to run. Utility wise, assuming you get it insulated correctly, put a mini split in, it's going to be about the most efficient thing in terms of heating a house. It's about the most efficient you can get.
It is, and a lot of people, they're going to look at it and they're going to say, well, golly, I can do that. Well, maybe you can, maybe you're not. But here's one from Home Depot. And I guess if you can read instructions and run a hammer, you can do it. But This is a prefab, okay?
Right.
This is a tiny home made out of wood. Doesn't include your foundation. It's not a bad-looking house. It's 476 square foot, all wood construction. All right, it's got the interior, got the exterior, $55,000 for it. And let's see what kind of warranty it's got. And this is in North Carolina, but it is a studio shed. And which, it's got Therma-Tru doors in it. It's got Marvin windows. It's got a metal roof. The siding is hardy plank. And it has appliances. Never heard of some of the appliances. And it's got Mohawk carpet.
All right. Well, a lot of these appliances, too, run off of the RV world, where you can have a washer and dryer. They make washer and dryer combo units, not the double stacked. I'm talking about this one unit that washes and then dries clothes. A lot of the bathroom stuff I've seen on these tiny homes use the RV technology, so that like for instance, the pumping it into a tank and things like that.
Well, to give you an idea, here's a picture of it. And that shows your living room, your kitchen, and your bedroom all together. And
again, it's a small studio apartment size. That's what I like about it is size-wise. We tiny homes, we think about them being tiny, but if for people who are living in cities and listen to this, it's kind of the same size lifestyle that they have to live in. Because we take for granted the open space and large areas here in the high country.
And I was telling Terry on the last break, the best home I ever built was a 24 by 24.
Right.
And the only wall on the inside was the wall around the bathroom.
That's cool.
And the washer and dryer was in there.
Yeah.
And they put electric baseboard heat in it, but they had a wood stove over in the corner. And they sent me a picture at 6 degrees. They was out on the front porch sitting in their shorts.
So hot.
Yeah, because he said, "You built a good house, Randy."
That's awesome. Yeah. No, it's cool. It's cool. So, well, I don't know. Maybe some people enjoy a little tiny house living. I would do it. I don't know if I would always enjoy it forever. But if I was, if I didn't have a lot of kids coming over at the house.
Well, that'd be your problem right there.
Maybe I just start building a compound, right? So maybe we could build a tiny house, and then what I'll do is I'll just keep out in houses like attached to it, and then
Or you'd be like that one house I worked on in Linville. I can't remember the date when the original house was built in the 30s.
Right.
What they do is build a deck on it.
They fill it in,
and then later on they enclose it. Then they build another deck. I think there was 6 decks on this house.
Dang.
And and it was on a rock foundation, and it was starting to, the rock was starting to break and come apart. And the house wasn't very big, and we was only doing one wall, but because of all the decks down this one side, it took 19 20-ton jacks to hold this house. So we could put a foundation under it.
Compound living, man. I'm telling you, it's the way to go. So, all right. Well, don't forget the Mountain Con, the Comic Con convention over at the high school, 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock today. Come on out. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to go over there. I'm not dressing up. Sorry, Randy. No costumes for me, but it'll be fun. I'm still going to be there. I'm going to, I'll see all the costumes, of course. And then you have the fish dinner tonight at the VFW, 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock. So get on over there. Some nice food.
Guess what's tonight, too?
What's that?
Karaoke.
Karaoke on a Saturday night.
After the dinner.
All right. Well, there we go. So those are your plans for the day. It's going to be a rainy day, so both of those are indoor. So see, we help you out here on All About Home Construction. So,
yes, we do.
Again, cool stuff. Stay warm this week. I think it's going to be a nice week once this rain cools out and pulls out of here. It's going to be a little windy, though, first part of the week. But I think Randy, you got a full week of work looking at you.
All right, good deal.
It's good stuff. So we'll talk to you next week. Until then, I hope you have a good weekend and enjoy it. And Randy, I guess I'll see you next week. Take it easy.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the podcast edition of All About Home Construction. We want to thank Skipper, Dave, and Bill for supporting the show. If you're enjoying this episode and you want to help us by creating some more awesome content, there are a few ways you can show your support. Subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. This actually helps us reach new listeners and climb the charts. And please share this episode with your friends and family. Word of mouth is always the best kind of advertising. You can support us directly through our page on Spotify. The links are in the show notes. Thanks for listening to us.